After spectacularly beating Carlos Alcaraz in the quarterfinals of the Australian Open this year with a pulled muscle, Novak Djokovic went on a little bit of a slump. Earlier in the year, he had lost to Opelka, which was a surprise to me. Then, after the Australian Open, he loses to Berrettini and Van den Zandschulp. Unsurprisingly so, he was written off by a lot of people on social media. People say Djokovic is done and he should just hang it up and retire. But this is so ridiculous to say because in January he beat Carlos Alcaraz with a pulled muscle. We cannot forget this. This is a fact that Djokovic did this in 2025. So for that reason, I've been saying all year long, Djokovic is still capable of producing great results. Now, a couple of days ago, in another video, I featured a clip of Djokovic talking in Serbian, how he didn't have any confidence in his ground strokes. Now, mind you, this was prior to the Miami Open starting. Djokovic is not immune from having a lack of confidence when he goes on a losing slump. Tennis players are the same in that regard. You got to win matches to have confidence. Maybe if you lose one match, not so bad, right? But if you have been losing a lot of matches like Novak has over the last 2 years, this does rob you of confidence. But when I saw the match from Djokovic against Musetti in the round of 16, that was a statement from Djokovic because he played some of the best tennis that I've seen in a long time. And against Korda in the quarterfinals, I thought that Novak Djokovic was going to win this match. They played each other once before in the Adelaide final in 2023, and it was a tough 3-set victory for Djokovic. So I do think that Korda plays Djokovic well. But this current version of Djokovic this week was going to figure out a way to beat Korda, and he did. In the first set, both guys were holding serve, and Djokovic is up 4-3. And then out of nowhere, Korda played a horrible service game, basically giving it to Djokovic. And Djokovic served out that first set. And then right in the beginning of that second set, Korda started playing really well. And he showed how talented of a player he is. And a lot of people have been a little bit disappointed in Korda. There were a lot of expectations on him that he was going to get into the top 10 and so on. And his results haven't been that great. He also has been suffering with some injuries. So it was nice to see Korda going into the quarterfinals by playing some great tennis. And also in that second set, he was playing extremely well. And he held his serve and went up 5-2. But Djokovic turned it on. And we know how great of a returner Djokovic is. And he got the break back, held serve, Korda held serve. And then in the tie break, something crucial that I've seen from Djokovic this year is the improvement on his serve. He had a mini break, was up 5-4. He needed 2 serves to serve out the match. And what does he do? He serves a service winner down the tee. And then on match point up 6-4, he serves an ace out wide on the deuce side. And I made a video about the Djokovic serve change earlier this year in the first week of the Australian Open. And Djokovic has changed his service motion throughout his career. And for a long time, he has been serving with an abbreviated lag, where he starts his coiling motion a little bit later in the service motion. What I observed at the Australian Open was a different style on the Djokovic serve, where he initiated the coil a tad earlier, somewhat reminiscent of a Pete Sampras-like serve. I'm not saying that it looks like the Sampras serve. It doesn't look anything like it, but Sampras would coil early, and Djokovic now on the serve coils a tad earlier than he did before. And he's also changed his stance when he's serving from that deuce side. His feet used to be a lot closer together than they are now. And he's been serving exceptionally well, despite not playing his best tennis this year. There's no doubt about that. Even though he played well at the Australian Open, Novak Djokovic has been struggling. That's why people are writing him off. But what he said prior to the tournament was very revealing, because Novak Djokovic's serve at this point in his career is more important than it's ever been. Djokovic made an interesting statement, and he believed that Fonseca is an extremely talented player. The fact that he's from Brazil is great because Brazil is such a huge country. There's an important market for tennis. But Djokovic, interestingly, also said that we can't forget about other young players that are the same age as Fonseca. Djokovic said that Tien and Mensik are just as good as Fonseca and that we shouldn't overlook them. Now, when Djokovic says something like this, we have to listen and we have to learn from the Joker. But I think the reason why he has such a high opinion of Mensik because they played each other last year at Shanghai and Mensik almost beat him. It was 6-4 in the third. So let me take this opportunity to talk about Mensik, Fils, and Fonseca and Tien and compare these youngsters because this is the next gen. These are the youngest guys right now that are doing really well. And I'll give you my opinion who I think has the biggest upside out of those guys. So Mensik came on the scene in 2024. He played really well at the Australian Open where he came through the qualies, beat Shapovalov in the first round, and then took Hurkacz to 5 sets. A few weeks later, he made the finals of Doha where he lost to Kachanov. A lot of people then were excited about him and were expecting big things. Mensik is a tall guy. He's 6'4". He's got a humongous serve, big forehand. He's one of those power players that can be extremely dangerous. But he didn't quite live up to the expectations after those great results early in 2024. He started losing a lot of matches. And interestingly, in last year's Next Gen Finals, he lost to Tien, he lost to Fils, and he also lost to Fonseca. Now, I will say that the Fonseca match was a super tight one, and so was the Tien match. So, of course, these guys are very close together in level. And in today's quarterfinal match between Mensik and Fils, I actually thought that Fils was going to come through this one, but I think the scheduling was tough for him. Mensik got a day off because he got a walkover over Mahaj, and Fils had a tough quarterfinal 3-set victory over Zverev the day before. But nevertheless, Mensik played a great match. He's got a phenomenal serve. Currently, he's number 2 in the world with 169 aces, and he's number 3 in the world on aces per match at 13. So already one of the best servers in the world. He moves quite well for a tall guy, but I do think that the movement can still improve. And of course, he's got a humongous forehand that he can finish a lot of points with. So super dangerous player. But I think the reason why people are hyping up Fonseca a little bit more than Fils, Tien, or Mensik is the fact that Fonseca, first of all, is from Brazil, and there's naturally going to be a lot of hype because people in Brazil are excited. But I also think that Fonseca is younger than those other guys. Not by much, but he is the youngest one. The improvement on Fonseca's serve between January this year and what I saw from him at this tournament is unbelievable. His serve has gotten a lot better, and I think he's going to continue to get better. And my intuition is that out of those 4 guys that I mentioned, Fonseca has the biggest upside. Now, that doesn't mean that Fils and Mensik can't be in the top 10. I think very highly of them. I think Czechia right now has 3 guys that can potentially be ranked in the top 10 simultaneously. Mensik, Lehečka, and Mahaj. 3 phenomenal power players. And it would be hard for me to pick which one is the best out of those 3 guys. Fils, one of the most exciting French players in a long time. I am going to dedicate an entire video to his forehand. He has one of the best forehands in the world already. I think he's going to be a nightmare to play on the clay courts. Now, Tien is capable of beating a lot of highly ranked guys, but I do think that he's going to have some limitations with his game style. I think it's possible for him to maybe get into the top 10 at some point, but to go towards the very top of the rankings, let's say top 5, with that particular game style, I do think that it's going to be quite of a challenge. He's going to have to learn to put a little bit more pace on his shots because the best players are going to be able to put him under a tremendous amount of pressure. Now, again, I know he's beaten Medvedev, he's beaten Zverev, and on any given day when he's playing his best, he can take somebody out. But over the span of a whole season, out of those 4 guys that I mentioned, I feel like Tien is going to have the toughest time. You know what I was thinking when I examined the quarterfinals on the men's draw? I thought, has any of these guys who are still left in the tournament ever beaten Djokovic? I was trying to see whether any of these guys can beat Djokovic. And the only guy that's been able to get a win off of Djokovic is Berrettini, which he did this year in Doha. But Djokovic is still 4-1 against Berrettini. But if you look at the head-to-head matchups against guys that were left in a draw in the quarterfinals, Djokovic absolutely dominates all these guys, especially the head-to-head against Dimitrov, his next opponent, who overcame a brutal 7-6 in the third victory over Cerundolo, who's probably going to be tired when he goes on the court with Novak. Djokovic is 12-1 against Dimitrov, and the only time Dimitrov got him was in 2012, a long time ago, at the Madrid Masters 1000. Djokovic is also 10-0 against Taylor Fritz, and Djokovic has not played Fils yet, but against all the other guys that are left in a draw, Djokovic hasn't played them that often, but he's beaten them and hasn't lost to any of them. So I cannot fathom any other player than Novak Djokovic taking home the 2025 Miami Open Masters 1000 title.